Hey, so it's Mazzy here, and I'm with the co-creator of the Beatles England, David Bacon. David and I invented Beatle tourism many, many years ago, and we're sticking by that story. So there we go. Now,
Richard Porter agrees with you. So.
Richard Porter, yes, the London Walks. Now, what this is about, there's a lot of McCartney crap all over now because of McCartney III. This is being recorded the very end of 2020, the year of the pandemic. That's on the Chinese calendar, I think, the year of the pandemic. But this is, we're doing an overview of the Paul McCartney discography of this century, basically from 2000 on. His discography catalog is so vast, we decided not to do the whole thing, but we're doing it from this century. So this is the 21st century Paul McCartney discography, and with a few little
which is a lot of material. We're going to get into this. Paul's output is really eclectic in the last couple of decades. I mean, he's all over the place, from freaky experimental stuff to acoustic ballads and everything, classical and everything in between.
Workaholic, right?
What?
The self-proclaimed workaholic.
Absolutely.
He's a musician. He loves to make music. He loves to play music. I realized something I forgot, but we can when we get there. But a 12-inch, the space 12-inch thing I forgot, but you probably have it.
Yeah. Okay.
So David's going to start, and let's go back to 2000 or so.
Yeah, I'm gonna stretch our definition and start our discussion with this album, Run Devil Run, which is which version is that? The import. I think this is the beginning of the late era of McCartney. It's the first album he did after Linda died, and it's diving into 50s rock and roll. So his second dip into that. First one was the Russian album. This is a really good album, I think. But what did I like on here? No Other Baby, which I believe, I could be wrong, was the song that Chad and Jeremy performed on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Lonesome Town, the
Ricky Nelson.
What?
Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, Ricky Nelson, yeah, and Brown Eyed Handsome Man, Chuck Berry. Really decent record. Sort of Paul, recovering from Linda's death and just diving into his old stuff. What is that? Those singles? Yeah.
These are 7-inch singles on the Parlophone label. He did a box set of the singles, of basically all the songs from the album as a limited box set. Yeah, he recorded this at Abbey Road, and is just jumping in doing the loosey goosey thing. Now, when did he?
He also did a show at the Cavern Club to promote this.
With David Gilmour.
With David Gilmour, yeah. First return to the caverns, or the new cavern, because the cavern from the Beatle days was torn down in the 80s.
Yep. It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Well, actually, the new one is not. It's a parking lot. It's
right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good way to start, even though this doesn't count into the new century. It kind of leads into that. It's
close enough, right?
Going back to his roots. I mean, he was really distraught after the loss of Linda. It really affected him, and going back to the roots here. And I like this. I think this is a fun collection. This was an import that also has an interview CD on it. So there you go.
Run Devil Run, 1999, the end of the 20th century.
But then.
So we're now in the 20th century, 2000, and Paul gets weird. So this came out, Liverpool Sound Collage, which is I don't know if this is actually credited to anybody.
Well, yeah, okay. I was really looking forward to it because just a few years before this, I got really into the Welsh band, the Super Furry Animals.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes that I think it was the Q Awards or one of those British Magazine Awards ceremony, McCartney was in the bathroom with Gruff Rhys from the Super Furries, and they talked about mixing some stuff. So Paul McCartney gave them some tapes and he mixed it. this disappointed me. I thought it would be more interesting than it turned out to be because I like the Super Furry Animals and their mix of a little bit of electronica, but psychedelic and pop. And this was a fun thing. Paul really didn't have anything to do with it, except he got some tapes of the Beatles, actually.
Yeah. There's the last track on this is, at the time we didn't know what it was called, Free Now. And you get Paul, this collage of stuff, just singing free now, credited to the Beatles. What we know now, when the Sgt. Pepper 50th anniversary box set came out, outtakes sessions on there, take 9 of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, song ends and then the Beatles keep jamming a bit, and that's where that Free Now little thing came from the end of Sgt. Pepper. I rarely play this, but I think it's a decent sort of, the weird Paul.
Interesting artifact, and I really like, you and I, David, have talked about this over the years. I think you're a fan too. I'm really a fan when Paul really experiments. And, a lot of times, John gets all the credit of being the out there one with Yoko and all that stuff. But Paul was really into the avant-garde. Even going back, he's the one that brought Richard Hamilton, the modern artist, to do the White Album cover. And he was the one, because he was sort of the single one going to the John Dunbar Gallery, originating all the art collection, became like a fine artist and befriended a lot of the pop artists to this day, which we're going to talk about. In fact, a very famous pop artist did his new album cover. And we'll get to that at the end. But I think missed a little bit of a missed opportunity, but just, it was like really of an EP. So not a major release, but kind of a fun release anyway.
Worth checking out though if you've never heard it. That's
right. And we finally have a Beatles Jerry Lewis connection.
Okay. Which is what? Oh, okay.
Lady!
All right.
Now, okay. Driving Rain. One thing I'll say for this, a producer was suggested him, David Kahn, who did a lot of stuff in San Francisco and the West Coast with some new wave groups in the 80s. He was an interesting choice. I don't know if he was a very dramatic choice or anything. But the one thing I'll say about this really, David Kahn, the producer on this, brought a band together, which turned out to be the band, almost the exact band, not everybody. I think Rusty is on this, I believe. And the drummer, same drummer he's had this band since this album longer than any other band, longer than the Beatles to this point. And I think that was a major thing. I remember when he toured promoting this record, he had this little bitty kind of hand camera, pixelated camera, and he would go on talk shows and use it to take pictures. That's what this cover was from, this picture. And that's what's all these back type of pictures using that little like handheld phone he had. This before iPhone, literally just before iPhones were coming out. Or I guess, no, iPhones were 10 years later. I don't remember.
When did this come out? 2001. So yeah, iPhones were not out yet. So
right. So he had this little phone and this automatic, camera pixelated thing. And of course, this tour, I went on this tour, and because some people didn't like this album cover, I think it's great. I like this album cover, but the CD eventually they put a slip cover on of the tour. This is from the tour.
It's the tour logo. Yeah.
Yeah. This was the tour book catalog, or the tour guide. So they put on, which I guess sold more. And I think this is one of the first things Paul did for a while. I think for a while they were packaging this CD with ticket sales to kind of spur on ticket sales.
Well, it's a more commercial looking cover than that pixelated black and white image.
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
I hate this album. I rank it near the bottom of Paul's work, and I have tried to like it. I was in preparation for this. I was kind of going through this stuff, and I was looking through the tracks. I couldn't even tell you what half of these things are.
Okay. I want to play a game with you while we're doing this, because I agree with you. I hate this fucking record. I want to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to name the worst song on the album, and then 1, 2, 3, we'll do the best song. If you know there's.
I don't even know. All right. I mean, okay.
Let's see,
Worst song?
Wait, well, it'd be 1, 2, 3, and then say it. Are you ready?
1, 2, 3. Rinse the raindrops.
Freedom. Oh, freedom. You got to be.
Yes. Okay. All right. I almost thought I'd think of that as a bonus track. Okay. Yeah. Freedom. All right. We're going to talk about that. Freedom is the worst piece of shit.
To 9/11.
That I mean, I rank it even below Wonderful Christmas Time.
You got to be free, freedom, free. Oh God, what like?
I will fight for the right for freedom. Yeah, it's horrible.
Now, one song I do actually like on here that I heard, I was reading on some forum people, some Hoffman forum people talking about this album, and it's a song that they don't like that I think the best song on this album is. Do you have one in mind?
The best song on the album?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'll just say that. I think the best song on this album
is wait for it.
Find the name of it. Riding into Jaipur.
Yeah, kind of almost like a George Harrison song.
Like very Indian-like, very Eastern-like. It's got a kind of a raga feel to it. I think it's really good. People don't think of McCartney. That's like George Harrison territory. And I think it's the only one that's really original. I can't stand Freedom. I can't stand From a Lover to a Friend.
No, I think that's like okay.
No, it's not.
I don't mind that one. The single "Lonely Road" is all right. I also kind of like Heather, but this is the Heather era. He was married to
Heather Mills.
Dexter there. Heather.
Eileen.
It had a horrible haircut too. He had this short hair,
and he was dyeing his hair, right? Is that when he was dyeing his hair? Yeah. Okay. Next.
So, crap. All right. What's next?
We'll phone you, Mr. McCartney.
We'll phone you. If we do chronological, this was a good collection. Wingspan. So this came out 2000, also 2001. Two record set, hits on one side, history on the other. Wings, although it stretches a little bit all the way to give my regards to Broad Street because it has No More Lonely Night. But really good collection with deep cuts.
This is a 4 LP version.
All the hits.
It has hits and then history, so it has some deep cuts. This is really good.
Yeah, worth getting. A couple rare things on it. Nice collection.
It's kind of cleaning up. It's kind of a cleanup album. And whenever you and I have talked about this when we did our Lennon video. Some people get all upset. Oh, they're putting out another comp. Well, I mean, between this and then the next comp was 15 years. With like Lennon, the last 2 comps 10 years apart. That's eons these days.
Don't buy them if you don't want it. Nobody's making them.
Right.
More live stuff. Back in the USA or Back in the World. It's a live album that came out with this. Paul McCartney live albums are almost like Elvis live albums. They're like, okay, sure.
I can't listen to these anymore, or I don't have.
I don't.
I mean, I think the only live album I keep going to of the classic live albums is Wings Over America, 1976, and then the things like the Amoeba we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. Okay, good.
All right, next.
What do we got next? Twin Freaks. I actually don't have a physical copy of that. All my copies are digital. Do you have the LPs? Yeah.
This is a cool collection. This is one of Paul's paintings. He was very influenced and a friend of the artist William de Kooning. Paul harks back to modern artists throughout his entire career. Some contemporary modern, or most contemporary modern, even going back to Sgt. Pepper with Peter Blake, the collage artist who did Sgt. Pepper, Richard Hamilton, the White Album. Over the years, some of his albums. This is his version. Now, what this is, this was produced by freelance hellraiser, that's his name,
The
who
DJ.
actually is a mixologist, not a mixologist, that's someone who makes cocktails, but a mix master who would open up his tours and do like a half-hour to 40-minute set, mixing different kinds of music and McCartney songs and edits of them, and like do them really interesting. So this is kind of a compilation of McCartney stuff from Darkroom, Live and Let Die, Temporary Secretary, Long Haired Lady, Reprise, Mumbo, Maybe and remixed versions of it, like everything from
Almost unrecognizable, the
yeah,
remix.
to
I
me
mean, they don't
that's
sound like
what's
this.
great about it. Again, I love this stuff. Of course, this came out during the time where people weren't buying a lot of vinyl, and I would continue with my vinyl collection of that related to the Beatles, so I'd still buy it. This is 2005. This came out, double record set with this bonus mix set that I don't remember exactly.
I think it only came out on vinyl. I don't think there is a CD version.
No, it was a digital download and vinyl, and that's it. No CD. That's why we've talked about a little bit, and we haven't really jumped in doing a full video of the Paul McCartney archive series. I'm really hoping they do an archive box of the Firemen stuff collected and this kind of stuff. This could even be in the same kind of ambient McCartney. It could be an ambient Rushes and Firemen box set, I think. But I love this. I think it's really interesting. McCartney's always had this thing of he wants to be contemporary. He wants to, he opens his mind up, he listens. Sometimes he listens too much to new things, and instead of going his own way, sometimes I think that's maybe the only criticism. I don't know how you feel about that.
He again, Lennon gets credit for being the experimental Beatle, but Paul really, for his career, does a lot of weird, interesting things. Now, I was in getting ready for this taping, I was playing some tracks, and I was playing that, and then you text me, and I turned it off, and my wife said, "Oh God, thank God that's over." I mean, it's not for everybody. It is, it's.
That's what's great about, it's funny you just said about Lennon, except for like 2 versions and those things, his albums are not very experimental at all.
No, not at all.
I mean, maybe Revolution number 9, was the most experimental thing he did with the Beatles, probably. So, okay. Also 2005 now, I'm going with a proper album. I'm going with
this one, Chaos and Creation. This is a little slip cover. And it says Paul McCartney, and then if you turn it upside down, it still says Paul McCartney. Right.
Now, this picture was taken by brother Mike McCartney, in their backyard. I love this kind of vintage shot. Beautiful album cover, I think. Love this. This is the original vinyl issue that came out, and then just the last few years in the reissue campaign, 2018, they put it in a single, an ungatefold colored vinyl. But I'll show this for the sake of this. Now, this to me has the best song Paul McCartney has written and recorded. It made a not just great best song, but best record, which means recorded song. You can write a great song and people can cover it, but his use of his voice, the quality of his voice, the quality of his guitar playing, the other instrumentation he plays on it, and that song is Jenny Wren. I think Jenny Wren is a perfect song that comes right out of like the White Album in a way. It's the closest we've done to a White Album song. In fact, you and I spoke about this. I long for McCartney doing a whole acoustic album, because I think he gets in trouble, to me, where he tries to throw the kitchen sink and the whole house into his records. I'll do a dance song, I'll do acoustic song, I'll do this, like in the White Album. It works with the Beatles and the White Album with all these different kind of genres, but you want a good feel of a record. And if there was a whole record of songs like Jenny Wren and Calico Skies and things like that, I think that would have been really good. English Tea is a nice song on here. Fine Line, I think, is like, that opens up. I don't like Fine Line.
The whole album, I think, is really good. Too Much Rain, I like. A lot of, and we can talk about this as we get into the studio albums. A lot of the B-sides, and there are several B-sides, are really, really good. Sometimes with Paul, you get the more experimental things. You got those line drawings. I like, there's a song, Summer of '59, which sounds like an Everly Brothers songs, 2 acoustic guitars, Paul double tracking his voice doing the harmony.
EP single. That's from the EP single, right? Summer '59 from the EP.
It's a B-side, yeah, the B-side from this collection. This album starts what I consider the late era McCartney Renaissance. He put out a series of albums up through McCartney III that, like Dylan's Renaissance.
I was just gonna say, like Dylan in 1999, when he started self-producing again under Jack Frost, he kind of has a resurgence, artistic resurgence.
Where these albums are all really good. They're, over half the songs I think are outstanding, and none of them are embarrassing. Good work, Paul. Good chaos and creation. I love that cover that Mike McCartney shot from 1962.
I love it. And McCartney does have some cringers, but he puts out so much stuff. I mean, you and I have made compilation CDs we've shared with each other over the years, and we did that compilation Rubber Solo of all the best of the solo stuff, and they continue, all of them. Well, the ones that are living continue to put out great music, but not always an entire album of great music.
No.
That's the thing. So
that's hard. Come on. I mean, I'll give these people a break. You have it when you have a 60-year career.
Right. Doesn't always know how to edit.
Everything is going to be brilliant.
He doesn't know how to edit himself sometimes. I think that's what the strength he had with some other people.
I was going to talk about this for another song later, but Paul has a story he tells often about Hey Jude, and that he was singing the line, "The movement you need is on your shoulder," and he said, "Oh, don't worry on it. I just slugged that in. I'm going to get rid of it." And John Lennon said, "No, you're not. It's the best line in it. You're going to keep it." And Paul tells that story often, and he uses some version of that story a lot, with a lot of promotion for his albums, where he goes with his first instinct, and where he really should have edited it some more and gone back a little deeper and thought about it a little bit, but he just jumps in. And I think that is his main fault, is that he relies on the quick instinct a little bit too often. Now, I don't know if he actually does that, but at least he says that when he does the promotions to these things. So, Chaos, good album.
We're 2005 now, so continue, Mr. Bacon.
Paul's eclectic starts with, I don't even know how to say this album. Ecormium, it's in Latin. One of his classical. He's got a whole series of classical music stuff.
Now, this is his really dedication to Linda. This is a dedication to Linda. Now, as you're showing this before, I pulled this out, even though it's not part of this period. I pulled this out first. No, not this one. Never mind.
We're going to get to that one in a minute.
No,
Standing Stone.
I pulled this one out first. This is 1999, and the only reason I pulled this out was because since you pulled Run Devil Run, this is the same year, 1999. Working classical, and it's chamber music by Paul McCartney. Not part of the decade, but it comes from this time of Linda dying and had died, and just before this whole thing, this and it's amazing. This and Run Devil Run, and I should have pulled this out earlier, in the same year. But you're right. But and also this you probably didn't mention, A Garland for Linda.
Same era, yeah. I didn't pull that one.
That was 2000.
2000.
But you're right. This was dedicated and really written for Linda McCartney. So you don't speak Latin?
I mean, I'm not a a classical music expert. So is this good or bad? I don't know. But It's an interesting piece of music. Paul writing extended classical instrumentals, suites. Really decent album.
And he writes the melodies, and he works with, an orchestra composer or conductor to translate what he writes. Because remember, we all know none of the Beatles, including Paul, they don't read music or write music, but they can write the melodies. And
you don't need to. With a computer, you play it and it'll automatically translate it.
Right. It goes back to when he did the score for Family Way, where George Martin kind of took his ideas and helped score there. So, okay.
Memory Almost Full, which came out, when that came out?
2005.
2007, I have in mind.
2007.
You got the white cover. This is one, they keep putting out different editions of this. Another, following Chaos and Creation, another really decent, strong effort by Paul.
I actually like Dance Tonight. I know it's a little ditty. It reminds me of like All Together Now. And remember, Apple used it in a commercial, or he's walking with his Chuck Jones Converse sneakers, and they kept doing that song. And
it's a good, stomping, mandolin. Here's where we're getting back to the Paul that edits stuff. Really opening track, nice groove, mandolin. It needs a third verse. Yeah. He's got these simple little lyrics, Dance Tonight, and then it repeats and repeats again. You needed to go a little bit better with the lyrics, but this has all sorts of stuff. Mama Only Knows, which kind of starts off with strings, and then the electric guitars come crash in. It's one of his best rockers, I think.
I think one of the best things on here, and some of the best guitar, is House of Wax.
FM classic rock searing guitar solo.
Sounds like Wings 1976.
Yeah.
Great, almost psychedelic, like classic rock guitar from the 70s.
One of my favorite tracks of this, Mr. Bellamy, one of the weirder, artier Paul songs. I'm not quite sure what it's about. Mr. Bellamy might be a cat trying to get out of a tree, or who knows, but arty stuff. Vintage Clothes, we just talked, Vintage Clothes.
What's great about
this also, Paul's got a whole series of, it's like Ringo songs where he's looking back at the old days, so that was me, meaning, I was in the Beatles and all these people are telling me when things happened, but I was there.
What's great about this was on Hear Music. He had a deal with Hear, which at the time was a part of Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And I felt sorry for, that's the expanded, I felt sorry for all the employees at Starbucks, because they were required to play this all the time. You could buy it at Starbucks, and it actually did pretty well, for a Paul McCartney record. Hear Music. I like this record too.
Yeah. Strong effort by Paul.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next, sir.
What do we got next? We got another live album. Boring. Good Evening. This is closing Shea Stadium, right? So the last event at Shea Stadium was Paul and the band playing there. Another live album.
I like that he closes places, because I, with some buddies and some of our mutual friends in San Francisco, went to see Paul McCartney. I think it was 2014, when they closed down, before they tore down Candlestick Park, and he closed it in San Francisco. He closed it because that was the last place the Beatles ever performed live in 1966. So a similar type of thing. I wish they did a live album of that, just as a commemorative thing. That was a pretty good show, but they didn't. So
I mean, he doesn't vary his set list that often.
Right.
So there's a sort of sameness to these. So, what do we got? Ballet this time, another classical one.
This is a nice record.
Yeah, I believe this was a ballet. In 4 movements.
Now, some of these have come out on vinyl. I never went to the vinyl version of these, but
If you've never heard Paul's classical stuff, it is worth checking out.
yeah, it's got a nice melody to it, and it's easy music, nothing dramatic. Now, this is where he does not get avant-garde with his classical music. It's very romantic, obviously.
Kisses
we're
at the
going there, huh?
bottom.
Okay. You're going there. You kind of forgot something.
Did I forget something? What did I forget?
Well, what year was Firemen?
Oh yes, oh yeah, absolutely, I forgot something. a major. So this, right? Yeah. What a surprise this was. So this is Electric Arguments by the Firemen.
Explain to our audience who Firemen are.
This is the third release by this duo. The Firemen is Paul McCartney and producer Youth. You know the guy's real name.
Well, he was from I was going to say Sonic Youth, not Sonic Youth, but Killing Joke. He was a member of the post-punk band Killing Joke. Martin, what's his name? See, I just totally blew that. I didn't know his name, and I'm blanking out. A member of.
So anyway, the two of them have this sort of casual relationship. They put out a couple of prior to this 2 albums as the Firemen, and which are experimental, ambient, sort of spacey stuff. Strawberry Oceans and then Russia's the Firemen.
Those were the 2 ambient electronica music with no singing. There were some ambient vocals, but no lyrics.
And they're good records.
They're very good.
You know, if you like that, I mean, very spacey sort of stuff for experimental. And then this was the third one. So this was announced. So Electric Arguments, and what oh, that's the metal. Complete surprise. So this one actually has songs that Paul sings. He's the vocalist on all of them. In fact, Paul performs the entire thing. We were talking this is, I sort of thought of this as McCartney III.
I did too, and I thought this should have been issued. This was the first time too that McCartney had his name on it. So it said McCartney and Youth. Every other one had the Firemen or just Firemen, the Firemen, but not who it was. So this is actually a song-based record. What the concept here was, they recorded 1 song a day. They completed a song from beginning to end over a 13-day period, but spread across a year. So it wasn't 13 days in a row. Yeah, McCartney's on 99% of it. I think Youth plays a couple of things here.
Maybe.
McCartney obviously did the cover artwork as well.
This is one of the best Paul McCartney albums of his entire solo career.
I think this is the best record, definitely in this, since we're talking about, in this, since 2000.
Clearly the best of the 21st century. There is not a bad track on this. And the album flows, it starts to get freakier as it goes along. So the last tracks are a lot more, craziness going on them.
Starts out with this crazy out there experimental rock and record that it's just screaming kind of.
Yeah, and then switches gears completely.
Exactly. Yeah.
to this little ballad, Magpies, and then Sing the Changes, this Light from the Lighthouse, Sun is Shining. If you have never heard this album, go out and buy it. This is the best.
Yeah, the extended box set has the CDs and the stems and all the remix stuff. This was a very limited metal clam shape case. It came out before the vinyl Renaissance, and it's spectacular. I think if this had been marketed as McCartney III, it would have been so much bigger. And I would argue this might be the best of the 4. If it had McCartney 1, 2, 3, and 4, if the new one was 4, this could be the best one of all of them.
Mm-hmm. And again, I rank it near the top of his entire solo catalog.
Yeah. It's an incredible record. He's in good playing. His voice is great. It's just wonderful. So,
And it came as a complete surprise. It was dropped out of nowhere.
right. Okay, now we can get on to the love letter for Nancy.
Yeah, we're in a new decade now. So yeah, Kisses at the bottom.
2012. We're in 2012. This is I like this record, I think, better than you do. His backup band, or if you want to call it a band, is Diane Krall's jazz band. Her piano playing is beautiful. I believe this was recorded at the Capitol Tower in Hollywood, in that great studio where Dean Martin and Sinatra and Nat Cole recorded in the house that Nat built, you know, the Capitol Tower on Hollywood and Vine, on Vine. He's doing not just normal oldies, he's doing the standards here. He's doing Bye Bye Blackbird, The Glory of Love, My Valentine, which was an original composition for Nancy, The Inchworm, I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Write Myself a Letter. His voice is starting to get crackly, but he kind of does it in a whisper a little bit. And I think it ultimately works. It's a very romantic, schmaltzy record, which Paul is good on, but I'm a fan of this record.
Yeah, I think it's a good record. It works. Paul doing, you know, the Great American Songbook standards. His voice.
You sound like
the album. I think, you know, he made it work, as you said, by kind of whispering the songs. There's also a companion disc of live versions of all this with Diane Krall playing the piano. It came a little bit too late. His voice was a little bit past. I mean, had he done this album 5 years earlier, or before,
I'd agree with that.
It would have been a stronger album, because Paul doing the Great American Songbook is a natural. So it works, but I think it could have been better.
Here's something. However, I think you and I think we agree with this. I'm a huge fan of Bob Dylan Triplicate and the other two records he did of his sort of Sinatra songbooky stuff. And again, Dylan's voice has always been out there, and some people like it and some people don't. I know so many people that can't stand Triplicate. I think that was also recorded at the Capitol Tower as well with his minimal group. I think that's an outstanding piece of work. I love Triplicate. Even his voice is craggly. He makes those songs work within his vocal range.
He does, and I have no objection to, you know, this is not the right word, but, you know, weaker vocalists. You know, one of my favorite Billie Holiday albums is her last one, Lady in Satin, and, you know, and she was completely a wreck, alcoholic at that point, and her voice was gone, but she made it work. So I all of Dylan's, you know, Sinatra albums, I think, are outstanding. But what Paul, I think, was trying to go for is a smoother sort of Sinatra.
And he doesn't
Tony Bennett type stuff, and because his voice just, you know, is okay. It's fine, but it wasn't quite there. And a younger McCartney could have pulled it off better.
I think it was around this time, might have been a couple of years earlier. I actually saw Paul McCartney do duet with Tony Bennett at the Neil Young Bridge concert. So it was great seeing that. And the sad part is, as wonderful as it was, the sad part is Tony Bennett, who's 90 or whatever he is, still has a great voice. And McCartney, who's, you know, 20 years his junior, does not. And that's kind of a sad thing, that McCartney, this golden voice, has lost that. Although, as we're going to get into, I think he's kind of learned how to use his voice. So I think we're going into this. Are we going into this?
Yeah, why not?
I don't like this record.
I want to like this record, which is
I love the cover. I love the art.
Yeah, new. I'm not going to say this is a bad album. I won't say that. However, it's a bad album.
People love this record.
It is, yeah, it is.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
There's some good stuff on it.
there's some good stuff.
Again,
He's
trying
got
to-
another one, The Early Days, talking about, the early days.
Queenie Eye.
Queenie Eye, that's stupid. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I don't like
This is,
it.
I don't know what this is.
I don't like it. We don't like it. People, but I know people who love this record.
Yeah,
This
it's
is what- Yeah. What can you
it's
say?
all right. I mean, it's okay. It's not a bad album. It's kind of a come down following Electric Arguments.
Oh, Electric Art Arguments is 100 times better than this.
And I don't think it's as good as Chaos or if you can do Chaos and Creations and Memory Almost Full, and this is the weakest of them.
I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not embarrassing. You know,
Okay. What do you say, Mr. Bacon?
that's all on a standard. Where you get these old guys approaching 80, and who have been around for decades. If it's
Although,
it's not embarrassing, then
talk about
okay.
the old people that make, like, look at Leonard Cohen, how he went out with. I just think his posthumous album, the album before he died, are stunningly beautiful, amazing, important records. Personally, I know we're not, if we're talking about 80-year-old artists, continuing to play music, which they should. Their music.
Dylan's album this year is one of his best.
That was my favorite album of 2020. All right. Yeah.
Compilation, Pure McCartney, 4 CDs, looking at his entire career. We talked about this when we did our comp show. In the era of streaming, a physical package like this doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's still a really good overview of his career. If you want to buy a one Paul collection that's going to cover, maybe I'm Amazed up through New, this is it.
Yeah, this is sort of what we talked about this on our comp set. It's what they did this year, what Sean did with Give Me Some Truth for John Lennon. The equivalent set to this, in a way. And on 4 LPs, and I think 3 or 4 LPs in the vinyl version, this has the main hits plus some deep tracks.
And the sequencing is interesting if you actually listen to it, because it's not chronological.
Which is great. I love
that.
Aren't you a fan when they don't do these things chronologically? I think it's better.
Well, it depends on the release, but in this particular case, I think it works.
Yeah.
It's a good collection.
New is on here. They did put New on here.
It's all right.
Yeah. All right.
Egypt Station. I have one with a red band, and here's one with a green band. Red cover. Great album. I loved this album. I still love this album.
This is a grower, though.
When this came out, when this came out, the single "Come On to Me," I thought, oh, come on. And then the one with the "fuck you" on it. What was it called?
By you.
Fuck you. Yeah. It's like,
by you.
Really? I mean, Paul, what are you, a 12-year-old boy?
Did you see the video with the 12-year-old boy?
I thought it was horrible. But then the album came out, and this was in my house, was in heavy rotation for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I loved it more. I listened to it.
It's adventurous.
And
some people don't like the idea of Paul trying to chase whatever's cool, whatever's new, whatever's hip, with the hip producer who works with Adele and these other, and Beck and these other artists. But why not? You work with contemporaries. It's always been the case in a certain way. Now you can go, I mean, he's done things like this where he hasn't been successful, but I think he's been successful here. And I think Come On to Me and For You actually
okay.
have grown on me.
When I heard the live versions, but there's a whole lot on here that's this. I almost compare this to Ram, with strong melodies, eclectic arrangements. What do I like on this? Hand in Hand, really good ballad. Dominoes, really good guitars. Despite repeated warnings, big song, lots of sections to it. Clearly critical of Donald Trump, I think, and my interpretation of that, that we were warned.
Yeah, this is the version that came out after that has the live versions at Abbey Road, the live versions at the Cavern Club, and the live version at Grand Central Station in New York.
And a couple of B songs. Frank Sinatra's Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the whole criticism, people, which we could get into a little bit into the next thing in the last few years, is this idea of package, repackage, buy it. I'm not even pulling out the friggin' suitcase or that kind of stuff right now, because I pull my back out bringing that up. But buy it. Wait, there's one more with 2 extra tracks. Wait, there's one more with 3 extra. Wait, there's one with an orange cover instead of a yellow cover or a red cover.
Here's the green rubber band, and here is the red rubber band.
Physical product is dying, has died. I mean, there's a not cult, but there's a group of us that still hang on to it. Young people too, but not as many, and some old people and some don't. Streaming is fine. I'm not a streamer, but I see what that's about. I like the physical. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum too. I think we both agree. We love artwork, books and artwork and photographs and paintings. And again, these are paintings that Paul did. So I love that he's really using his artwork a lot now in these records. But I agree. I like this. It's been a million variations of the packaging on it, but I still like this record. I think it's successful. It hit #1, which doesn't mean anything these days. That's like selling 17 copies and he hit #1.
I mean, he cheated, to play the games to get #1. But there's, you get old people like us who are his fan base who love physical media, obviously, looking at both of us, and are fortunate enough to have the income, where we can buy this crap.
Yeah. Did we forget? Was that this? Yeah, we forgot the Amoeba record. Do you have that there?
I was coming up next.
Oh, sure.
Although I don't have this, you have it. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about it. That the Wings Over Europe came out.
Oh, I didn't pull it, but yeah.
Which was part of the archive series, the big box with Red Rose Speedway and.
I didn't pull that, but
Wildlife.
Yeah.
Great live album.
But see, that's not a new record. That wasn't recorded during this period, so.
It wasn't, but there's a live album.
There is vinyl versions of this that came out. Amoeba Records is this great.
This came out as an EP, I think, originally.
Yeah. Amoeba started in Berkeley, California. The second store was on Haight Street in San Francisco, and the LA store. I actually got a call that morning that someone had a ticket to that show, and I was in San Francisco. And if I had known the day before, I would have flown down, because he did an in-store with his band at Amoeba Record Store in Hollywood. And they put out originally Amoeba put out a CD and a limited 12-inch of that. And then, of course, it was reissued in the last few years in the reissue program on vinyl.
It's a really good record. It's one of the best live albums.
Memory, that's the songs from Memory. That's a memory tour.
Yeah. It's got Mama's Got Dance Tonight. And,
yeah.
It's an older, but good gig.
The guitar solo out song I like on there.
It does. Hey Jude. Usual. Good record. Which brings us to a new decade. 2020. McCartney III. He really milked the almost unlimited number of versions of the release. There has to be easily 25 different versions.
Okay. A lot of people are dumping on McCartney for this. You get signed by a record company. In this case, it's Capitol. In this case, it's Universal Music. It's their job to sell as many fucking records as they can. They want to sell records. Now, the old thing is, the old adage, you don't have to buy them. You can stream them. You can listen to everything, even the outtakes on YouTube now. You don't have to, buy them. Pink edition, back cover. Target edition, green dice, different back cover. I don't have them all.
And the insides are different too.
Yeah, they are. I'm not going to pull them all out. I haven't opened them all.
Yeah, I've purchased 5 copies of this. 4 of them are still coming in the mail. Right? Look at that. What is that? A surprise to me too. Sent with love. I can't read what that is.
It says, with love from the White Stripes, Third Man Records. I happened to wake up early one morning, like 5 o'clock.
Oh, right, okay.
I looked on my phone on Instagram, and they had the new McCartney album for pre-order before any of the other pre-orders. And I just ordered it because it was a special edition. I didn't know how limited it was. Literally within 15 minutes, it sold out. 333 copies because of McCartney III.
So that's what the yellow with the black splotches on it.
Yeah. It's not sealed. Unlike the other albums that are printed, it's like a silkscreen matte cover. You can see it's matte rather than glossy.
Yellow background.
It's not a gatefold. It has a huge poster that mimic I'm not going to open it up right now, but mimic all the interiors of the various gatefolds. And the record itself are made up of recycled copies of McCartney I and McCartney II.
Sure. Melt it down and use it again. $3.
Now, there's only 333 copies for this. Right now, I see on eBay, the bidding is up to $1,300 to $1,500 on several of them. There's like 4 or 5 people asking $3,000 to $4,000, which is kind of outrageous. But this will be a collector's item because there are only that many copies. Now, one thing I've read, some people do not like the cover. I love the cover. This is by Ed Ruscha. Ed Ruscha is a pop artist from the 60s that moved from the Midwest.
Painting, people might know, is a Standard Oil gas station.
And he does a lot of things with this type.
And he does a lot of with just words, paintings of just, words.
Yeah.
Once I knew he did the cover, I sort of liked the cover, because when it was first announced, I was like, okay, sure, whatever.
There's some people that don't like the cover, and that's fine. And
do you have the dice that it was sent to you?
Yeah, I didn't bring them here. I was, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of my YouTube channel or what I'm doing, Capital Universal sent a pair of dice to people a few weeks before the announcement, like out of the blue, FedExed, or it was like an overnight thing of this little packet of some dice. I didn't include them here, and then those were selling for a few $100 on eBay. So this is my retirement right here. Eventually, maybe. Now, let's talk about the music.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed in this. I've already sort of filed it away. I mean, this just came out. When did this come out? A couple of last weeks
ago.
I like a lot Long-Tailed Winter Bird, which is this long song that opens this album out with this, just him and his guitar. It's mostly an instrumental. I think a really strong opener is it's going to go on my McCartney fave playlist. And then from there, it's okay. Nothing horrible on this record. It's
I like half of it a lot, and half of it no. I think he uses, surprisingly, his voice sounds good for where his voice is today, in my opinion. I like how his voice sounds on this record, how he knows his limitations. I happen to like, my favorite songs are the schmaltzy, Beatley type songs. For instance, the final song, When Winter Comes, is like heart of the country, acoustic guitar, very light, living on a farm. It's something right out of Ram, in my opinion. I love that song.
The Kiss of Venus,
Kiss
decent.
Venus, very Beatley. He goes high on that.
I'm not sure that there's a song called Deep, Deep Feelings, which is over 8 minutes long.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
I have mixed feelings about it. It caught my attention the first time I heard it because he gets into this sort of trance-like groove and repeating the same words over and over again. I've sort of soured on it as I've gone, listened to it a few times.
The Japanese, this is the Japanese version with the 4 extra bonus, which are basically demos and things. There's actually a wonderful acoustic demo of Laboratory Lil, which I like better than the produced version on this. David, you're looking at me and mocking me. I can tell that smirk.
No, I'm not mocking you at all because I've
known you for 50 years and I know you're smirk.
I am not mocking you at all. I haven't heard those songs. I have them on order because from McCartney, you could buy little slip cases like that, one red, one blue, one yellow, one white, with one song, one additional song per album, and I bought all 4.
Well, I give
they're on the way.
Yeah. So if I had to, I mean, people always want to know what you think of this album, and I did my version of an unboxing of reaction shot where I had headphones and just expressed. I couldn't play the record for my channel, but I just listened to the whole thing. I kind of edited it down and I just reacted to every song and kind of muttered about it. So if you want to see that, it's on my channel. But I would give this record probably a B-.
Yeah,
Probably give it.
I mean, it's okay. It's not bad. It's based on the early reviews before it came out that I was reading. It seemed like people are liking it a lot better than when I actually heard it. So I was kind of, once I came out a little bit disappointed. Again, Paul uses that, well, go with my first impression, because, and it could use a little bit of editing, I think.
Yeah, there's this song, is it Deep Down, that goes on like it could be a, Deep Down. Is that the one? There's the Get Down one or Deep, I think it's Deep Down. It's almost like a soul.
The long one is Deep, Deep Feeling.
Yeah, but Deep Down has like this, I think that's the one of the soul, get down, get down. And it could be, but it doesn't quite make it. It goes on and on and on. Yeah. Recorded
during the Rock Down.
I like that he did this, and I do like the idea that he wanted to do, that he was just playing around and he didn't know he was making an album and it turned into an album. That's kind of cool. I like Find My Way. I think Find My Way is a good cut. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of false endings on here where he should have just ended the song instead of having the false ending and come back for another 5 minutes or something. Again, McCartney, the last 20 years. Anything else you want to say about these records or any of this about McCartney in this?
And again, I mean, I think we're he's pushing his 80th birthday coming up in another year. We're grateful that he's still here, and the material's still strong, and looking forward to whatever he does next.
Yeah, we're big McCartney fans, and we're not apologists, and we don't like everything just because it's McCartney. And David and I have always had the discussion. We've had 50 years of sharing this music, this type of music, and we always compare notes on these things. And we had a great time going back into the last century, 1976. David and I took an airplane to Los Angeles from San Francisco and went to Wings. At the Forum.
We saw the last show of the tour, I think.
Was that the last show of the tour? Okay. Because we had seen them in San Francisco at the Cow Palace, and it was great. It was just a fun trip, and I'll never forget.
Our tickets were behind the stage, so we were looking.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
We saw the Forum show that Ringo didn't come to.
Right. And I remember we rented a car, and they gave us this like big giant, they upgraded us for whatever reason, and we pull into the Forum, And the
A
song,
white Cadillac with red vinyl.
well, it wasn't quite, it was something like a Lincoln or something, and someone yelled out, "Hey, rich Hollywood types." It was a joke. I mean,
We were what, 25 years old or something.
yeah, I mean, well, we were about 23, 22. We were
Before the
young.
Beatles, this before the Beatles thing.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we like Paul McCartney. We hope you got some things out of that. Get electric arguments. That's the key here, I think, right? I wish he would do more like that. That was good. Just write in a day. Don't overthink it. So thanks, David. Mazzy loves you,
Peace
and we'll
love.
see you next time.